Hey everyone, welcome. Creative Real Estate Education, our Monday Investor Spotlight. We're pretty excited. This one's a little bit different, Wayne, just a little. As you got the sneak preview, I think you would agree.
Look at my face. I just got the details, and I'm like, holy, I said it, holy crapoli. Like, it's...
So yeah, so this is really cool. This is David Coughlin is he's a student, but he's a student of the home study kit. So he hasn't even had, well, he may have done it since, but at the time he hadn't taken any live focus workshops. So this guy's a keener. He's got a little bit going on, and it's such a big deal. So this one, you need to have a pen. You need to take some notes on this one because there's all kinds of nuggets and different angles and elements that there's so much going on. We're actually bringing Barry in.
Yeah.
Right?
He was just saying, like, he's super excited about this one. And you know what? For all of you saying that those deals aren't out there, God dang it, listen to this one. I'm blown away. I am absolutely blown away at the terms that he got. And the deal that he, oh man, okay, I'm gonna go off and start telling it myself. I'm just gonna calm down. I'm gonna let David tell the story. Do we need to preface this in any way?
I don't think so. I mean, you guys make up your minds on what you think, and there's going to be questions, so make sure you write those down as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring David in, and we'll just start right there.
David, welcome.
Hi everybody.
Hi, David. So here we go. So I said just a little bit about who you are. In the intro that I sent out or posted, that you started investing, your first property was in 2017.
Correct. Yeah. That's when me and my wife bought our first principal residence in 2017. My wife and I had always been interested in getting into real estate in one way, shape, or form or another, and kind of always had a keen interest in running our own businesses. Just kind of, to move away from the everyday norm, if you want to call it that. So that's kind of a little bit of how we got started. There was our principal residence in 2017. 2018, I joined another pretty popular real estate group, just to kind of get some more education and some more information. And then it kind of just grew from there. I, of course, as any beginner investor, I mean, money is always sort of an issue to get started on that down payment. How do we do it? How do you facilitate 20% down, right? And doing things the conventional way. So I knew that would probably take me quite a while to find that type of funding and things like that. So I just started researching tirelessly on how else I can get involved in real estate, because it was my wife and I's dream, and we were determined to get into it and do it. And we did it in 2019, well, kind of early 18 into 19. I started looking at real estate options and option contracts, wholesaling assignments, and researching that and how that whole thing works. Had several properties under contract at one point, but wasn't obviously, now I'm not able to move forward into wholesale them, because it's one thing to have them under contract, but now what, right? So a few of those ones fell through and wasn't able to facilitate the final assignment of them. But I was able to do one wholesale deal, which actually worked out quite well. And kind of Barry helped me out with that as well. So sort of as things were progressing, I was looking into wholesaling and assignments, and had some really good introductions through another real estate group that I was involved in, and Barry and Donna's name came out of that. So I had a referral from another mortgage broker to actually he put me in touch, actually, I think, with Donna. And it was back when you guys were just going to be doing the Red Deer AFS training program. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to that one. I was at work at the time. But that whole area of creative financing, creative real estate, just had me drawn in. So yeah, I guess basically kind of a short story or a long story short, met with Barry McGuire in 2019, kind of did a wholesale deal for about 10K, which actually worked out really well. Shared those profits with another friend, but it was a nice deal that we did. Started to kind of research a little more aggressively into the agreement for sales and things like that. Sort of learned on my own in a way, just from doing things online and researching. Found an opportunity to do an agreement for sale, which once again Barry helped me out with, on a townhouse that I acquired via an agreement for sale, for virtually zero money down. About $5,000 down when it was all said and done, on a townhouse in Stony Plain. So that's working out really well. Once again, continued on with my search. Was always interested in getting into multifamily, because I knew that potentially I could get into the financing a little bit easier on a multifamily commercial aspect of a property. So that was always an interest of mine, and I was always looking for, a good deal in a sense, or something I could do an agreement for sale on. Because I was looking for these multifamily units, sixplex and properties of that nature, I kind of stumbled upon this one in Strathcona that I got. It was an MLS listing. It had been on the market for approximately 196 days. And it was just sitting there. And it had been on the market pre-COVID and then into COVID. So it was just, the timing was right. And the negotiation factor on the property was right. It was just the timing.
Okay, so let's just recap where we're at here. So you found it. Did you have a realtor, or you saw a sign? How did you come across this property?
Yeah, no, I didn't have a realtor. I saw the real estate sign, for sale sign, in the on the grass in the front yard. Inquired online. I looked up the property online and checked it out, so I knew the price of the property and some details on it.
What was the price?
The original asking price at that time was, they had originally listed it for about $725,000. So I noticed, because the property had been on the market for so long, that they had reduced the price on 2 different occasions. So that was definitely a big ticket exclamation mark for me. At that time, the price they wanted was $625,000. Okay. So I made an appointment to meet with the realtor. I did a walkthrough of the property. At that time, it had 2 existing tenants in it, one upstairs and one downstairs. So I did a walkthrough of the property. Found it to be quite interesting. Unbeknownst to me, I mean, obviously a rooming house and things like that.
So sorry, David, it was listed as a triplex?
Well, they had listed it as a multifamily 8-unit apartment building. It didn't really say anything about a rooming house. It just was called an 8-unit apartment, commercial building, commercial listing. So even the real estate agent kind of was sort of listed incorrectly in a sense, right? The way they kind of marketed it and whatnot. So I think that's sort of one reason why it stayed there for so long and didn't really attract much interest. So I set up an appointment to go view the property, looked at it, it's in decent shape. Downstairs has 2 shared kitchens, 2 bathrooms. So it's kind of split in half. It's listed as a triplex. So downstairs, like I say, has 6 separate units, split in half. So on one side has 3 bedrooms, bathroom, and a kitchen. On the other side has 3 bedrooms, bathroom, and a kitchen. And then upstairs has 2 conventional rental units, 2 2-bedroom suites. So in a way, it is set up like a 4-plex, but the way that it's has the permits through the city, it's a triplex because the bottom, all 6 units downstairs are considered 1 unit. So it's the triplex. So 2 separate units upstairs, and then the downstairs is the legal rooming house, considered 1 large unit with 2 kitchens and 2 bathrooms and 6 bedrooms.
So this wasn't a for sale by owner sign. This was a realtor sign. That's what I was trying to ask earlier. This seller had a realtor on it.
The seller did have a realtor on it, yes.
And you were able to approach the realtor with, did you have your own realtor or did you just approach them directly?
No, I approached the realtor directly.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was always looking, I mean, same as all of us, right? For sale by owner, on Kijiji, on Facebook and things like that. And I spent a lot of time on the ground, boots on the ground, just searching and driving and visiting different neighborhoods, and always on the search for those for sale by owner signs.
Mm-hmm.
I still do. A little bit less now, but.
And for the people that are newer to this, why specifically were you and do we typically go for sale by owner signs as opposed to realtors?
Well, potentially it could be a distressed property, it could be a distressed seller. It may be somebody it may be even somebody who could be a fellow investor as well, that kind of knows the ins and outs of the market, and how things work, and they don't really necessarily need to use a real estate agent. But generally it's something that you would know would be potentially a distressed property or distressed owner. For some reason they need to sell. They may not be able to afford to use a real estate agent. So to me, that just opens up opportunities for agreement for sale, seller financing, different aspects and different fortes of creative win-win solutions.
So do you guys want to start getting into the nuts and bolts of this deal and like how you first approached it? Do you want to get into it, Donna, or?
Well, let's start with, so did you negotiate with the realtor?
Well, initially I did. I visited the property on 3 different occasions. So one, I just did an initial visit, met with the real estate agent, did a kind of a quick walkthrough and whatnot of the property, kind of pulled back, reevaluated to see if this was something that I really wanted to get into or not, based on the asking price, $625. So I worked with a mortgage broker that we all know quite well.
It's okay.
Yeah, so I called up Sean Impey just to get some advice. He's always open to giving good advice and to help a fellow investor out. So I started to kind of work with him to see what kind of financing I could get into on this property. I paid another visit back to the property just to I brought my wife this time, so we could look at it, because my wife and I were looking at doing something via the home care business, that aspect of things. So that's why this property it's a very unique property, but it sort of fell into the grommet of what we were looking to do in the future, was to provide group home and more of the healthcare services. So she's a massage therapist. Has some friends that are also in the field that were into that medical field as well. So that's why the property kind of worked well for us. She looked at it and thought to herself, okay, well, this could work. We could have staff accommodations upstairs, and then, you know, kitchen upstairs in the other unit, and have it rented out to for as a care aid property, in a sense, as a group home.
Okay.
So we looked at it, and then from there, I just started to talk to the real estate agent. I put an offer in. Actually, how I structured the offer was I put in a double offer. One was for, you know, I lowballed it, just basically a cash offer at $515,000, and I structured the other offer as a VTB at $550,000 with a $20,000 down payment and the remainder as a VTB. Put the offer in. 2 days later, I got a call back from the real estate agent, and he said the seller accepted your offer. I was shocked. I said, okay, right on. He said he accepted your offer at $515,000. Okay, so now I thought to myself, now what? Right now I need to figure out how I'm going to get the financing for this. So the real estate agent was very open, easy to deal with, nice guy. I kind of talked to him and said, well, I really like to do a vendor take back on this. And that was my angle. Eventually he just said, you know what? Why don't you just talk to the seller? You guys come up with a deal, and you guys negotiate everything that needs to be negotiated. At the end of the day, I'll put the paperwork together and we'll call it a day. So that's how all this kind of started. He gave me the seller's phone number and email address, and then me and the seller started to communicate back and forth. At first, he wasn't interested in doing any kind of financing on it, but I was, you know, I mean, I created a win-win situation for him. He had acquired the property through an estate sale, which was his brother previously owned it, and his brother had passed away, so the estate sale was now in his name. He lived in Vancouver. Actually, both brothers were from Vancouver. And then he wasn't interested in, he's not a landlord. Didn't want really anything to do with the property, and just kind of wanted to get rid of it because he lived so far away, and yeah, I mean, it's tough for him to manage it. So
he was managing it?
He was looking after the property from Vancouver, right? So yeah.
What?
Like I say, so then now the property had been sitting almost vacant. It was costing him, you know, costing him quite a bit of money just in holding costs, right? Taxes, mortgage, or no, there was no mortgage on the property, another key factor in this deal. But it was costing the holding costs in property taxes and utilities, right? So, I mean, it's costing him more than he was renting it out for. It's costing him probably about $1,000 a month just to hold it. So he didn't want to do that anymore, obviously. And the property had been sitting for well over 6 months. So he needed to make a move on it. And like I say, the timing was right in this, and I just I was looking for multifamily in this, but I sort of stumbled upon this opportunity, and I utilized it as such. Negotiated with the seller. Obviously, I kept the price the same at $515,000. I put $15,000 down to help him out. I put $5,000 down as consideration, and then I put another $10,000 down to help him out with the real estate fees. But also that, based on the negotiation, was a down payment towards the price of the property. He could do whatever he wanted with that money. And he was willing to finance it for me for $500,000 on a 1-year term at 1.5% interest. Interest payments only for a 1-year term. So
you never told me interest only.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And he was more than happy to do it. He kind of liked, at first I introduced him to, like, the passive income aspect of it. You could make some passive income on this for, X amount of years, right? I mean, there's no mortgage remaining on the property, so it's nothing but profit for you. He wanted to sell it, but he was willing to work with me and do a 1-year term. And then we can talk about it closer to the 1-year term if we need to continue the financing on it for a second term. 2 years is the most he'll do. He's getting up in age as well. Doesn't want to sit on the property for much longer and just kind of want to reap the reward and have it off his name in a sense, right? Which it is now anyways.
So you got it for $515,000. Do you know what the comparative market analysis is? Do you know what the actual value of it is, or the property tax value?
Yeah, property tax assessment is $650,000. It's on title for $705,000 on the transfer of title. So it has some pretty good potential returns. I mean, based on my return on investment, I put in $15,000. It's got about a 300% 1-year return on my investment.
And you should be, I was just doing math on my calculator, you should be able to refinance this thing at least 80% loan to value at the end of this 1-year term.
Yes.
Yes.
And it sounds like you don't really need to do a whole heck of a lot. In a lot of cases, people will buy things, they have to increase the value in order to refinance it and pull their money out.
Right.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I'm overly happy with this purchase. I mean, it's an interesting property, don't get me wrong, and it's a lot of work because it is a rooming house. So I've learned a lot. On this property in the last few months, put it that way, as opposed to just having a conventional, residential home where you have one renter, maybe two, and they're nice, decent people. This is a small apartment building. I have 12 residents in there that currently live in the property. So, I mean, you learn a lot about dealing with people, a lot about, venting tenants, the legalities of the Tenant Act. I've learned a lot about working and dealing with the City of Edmonton on the permit aspect of it with the Safe Housing Committee, building relationships with them.
Do you mind going a little further into that and
Sure.
your communications with them and how this all played out? What did they think about it?
Well, I mean, so basically the Safe Housing Committee consists of Edmonton City Developments, the fire department, which is fire and rescue for this aspect of things. So the fire department, and then also with the Alberta Health. So all three groups are involved in what is created as the Safe Housing Committee. Decent people to work with. They really like this property. It's in good condition. I take pride in taking care of the property as well, with cleanliness of it. I mean, to the best of my abilities. The cleanliness of it, the condition of it. I mean, in these properties, you have to have all the fire suppressant systems in place, all your fire alarm systems. and all of that aspect of things as far as the fire and safety codes have to be up to par. Luckily for me, prior to purchasing it, I kind of did some research on it. It did meet all the codes, but I had to bring those folks in to give it another full inspection because it was a transfer of name. There was a couple small slight deficiencies which I've corrected, and now it's passed all its inspections, and now I've received my business license to carry on and operate it as is. Yeah, so that's kind of the standards of the rooming house. Is all under the Safe Housing Committee.
This is Strathcona. Is it close enough for students, or is it like, what's your tenant demographic?
Yeah, I have. It's close enough to the university. It's just within the walking distance of the Mill Creek Ravine. Yeah, so it's just down past 99th Street. So it's on 98th Street. So it's got very good accessibility. It's a few blocks off of White Avenue and 1 block off of 99th. So it's a quick jaunt to downtown. So it has the student accessibility to NAIT. It also has student accessibility, obviously, to the U of A and Grant MacEwan. So it's got very good, the demographics and the logistics are very good. Close to all bus stops. Yeah.
There you go.
Do you consider yourself lucky? Or do you consider yourself just like a really hardworking guy? Because I don't think you're lucky.
Well,
I think you put in the work. You called a realtor sign and you put in the work. I'll let you answer the question.
Sure. A little bit of both, but I did work. I worked hard to find this, and I worked hard to acquire it. I put the time and the effort in over the months and months and months before I even had this opportunity to purchase this. I worked hard to find the opportunities and stuff out there. I put a lot of groundwork in, researching, networking, things like that. I kind of knew what I was looking for in a sense. The creative deal, an agreement for sale, seller financing, right, was a big aspect of mine. I kind of had a laser focus. I wanted to do seller financing, and that's where I looked for something in the multifamily and the commercial side, because it's something that is done quite often in that aspect, or in that realm of real estate. It's not done as often or as frequently in the residential side of things, from what I've researched. So I kind of knew I wanted to get into that aspect of it. So I worked hard, yeah. And lucky.
Oh, did you have something?
Lucky to meet good people and get some good advice from the right people.
Luck is where preparation meets opportunity. Just gonna leave it at that.
Sure.
Just leave it at that.
Barry, go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I don't really think there was much luck involved here. It's a good lead in there, Wayne. But as we hear David talk about it, it's definitely this is a result of firstly education. We talk about it all the time, and I don't know, people are tired of hearing us say, if you understand the strategies, you'll recognize the opportunities. But I guess another take on that is, if you understand the strategies, you'll know how to go out and look for the opportunities. You'll know what it is that you want to have a laser focus on. And in David's case, he wanted seller financing. So, if you get that initial education to understand what those possibilities are, then you can craft up a plan that will help you go out and find those things. So, not much luck and a lot of hard work. But what I wanted to talk about was not what I just said, but it seemed appropriate. It's always this little segue I can do. Is the notion of safe housing. So we're right now. I've got some of our students at Field Law doing a memo for me on safe housing. What exactly is safe housing in Edmonton? How does it show up? How do you deal with them? What does it mean? And essentially, safe housing deals with multifamily properties that were in place before, I think it was the big bylaw revisions in 1971, when everything in the city did change drastically because we have a brand new bylaw. And there were just a ton of properties that did not now fit under the new bylaw, but were a good stock of housing, and the city didn't want all of that reasonably priced housing to disappear in an enforcement of a new bylaw. So they struck the Safe Housing Committee, whose job it is to preserve that stock of housing in the face of the new bylaw. And so that's what David ran into, which is a committee that has their three arms that come and look and inspect and make sure that good solid housing does remain at a reasonable price. So that's safe housing. And folks, you will run into safe housing possibilities as you research. I think there's probably 2,500 or 3,000 properties left in Edmonton, maybe down from 5,000 or 6,000 properties where safe housing governs that particular kind of housing. So that's just a short segue on safe housing and luck versus hard work. And now I'm going to leave it over to you guys, Wayne and Donna, and you can carry on with the progression through the steps. So you carry on. You tell them, hey, I don't want to talk all the time. You know me.
I'm kind of at a loss of words. I can't believe that Barry mentioned it off air, but you can never assume a seller's motivation. You can't. How would you have known that it was a free and clear property that he inherited? And like most people assume, and through the discussions that we have in our communities, a lot of people, they don't even really go for multifamily properties anymore. They just like, oh, there's no deals in multifamily around here. All the sharks have they always get the first lead, or and for us small guys, it's hard to find those good deals. So a lot of people they think that way, but so nobody thought to call that sign.
Yeah,
and you
just true.
So I'm blown away. It's to get a deal like that. And the exit strategy is so simple on that. You don't have to, when you said 1 year, I'm like, that sucks. But no, you're able to you can refinance that and not have to put any more money in.
Yeah, that's the hope on that. And I mean, yeah, that's what I will be doing on, within 1 year's time. The thing is too, on the multifamily, sometimes they're hard to find because they don't always have a realtor listing sign on the front of the property. You have to research a little bit harder for them. And one interesting thing is right off the bat, as soon as I met with the real estate agent, as we were kind of talking out on the front sidewalk, whether he meant to tell me or not, but he told me that there's no mortgage remaining and the seller acquired this property via an estate sale. So right as soon as he said that, the lights went off in my head, and I knew that I could probably acquire this property, with a strategy in place and a creative, with a creative mindset.
Because for the seller, it's almost like a lottery thing. Not to say it's a lottery thing. I mean, someone did pass, unfortunately, but for them, in their mind, the perspective of 700,000 and 500,000 doesn't make a huge difference. Now, if someone was to have money in that deal and they've held it for a long time, they're a little more emotionally invested into their return. But for this scenario, he's just like, okay, I guess I got an 8-unit in Edmonton now. It's worth 700,000. For him just to be done with it, he doesn't. The difference between 700 and 500 in his perspective is probably not as much as it would be for an investor.
Right.
So that was huge information.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, for sure, because otherwise it definitely would have changed the strategy, and it would have changed the way the negotiation on it and the way that we would have went about trying to acquire the property. Or it may have just changed the deal altogether, and I would have potentially maybe moved on and tried to find something else. But like I mentioned before, it really worked well for what my wife and I's future plans are for this property as well. Yes, it's a great investment. We can refinance it, and there's a pile of equity in that property. Even more so if I do some minor renovations to it, which I'm going to come spring, summer, just before the refinance is up. Just some basics. I did do some minor renovations too on my own. I've redone one of the suites was vacant, so I redid all the flooring with laminate flooring, repainted and refurbished the kitchen a bit with repainting, refinishing the countertops, just the basics, which also increased the amount of rent that I could get for that unit. So each unit downstairs rents out for $550 a piece times 6, and then the units upstairs rent out at $1,300, and the one across the hallway rents out at $1,250.
And what's the total rents?
The total rent on it, just ballpark numbers, $5,800 a month is the revenue. My expenses, once again, ballpark is around $2,000. The seller also paid out all the property taxes up until January of this year for me on this deal. So I don't have any property taxes on it. So, all in all, a really good, and he was a very good gentleman to work with. So my expenses on the property are about $2,000 a month. Revenue coming in is about $5,800 a month. The rest is all cash flow. So cash flow is at around $3,000 a month, which is very significant for us. It's great because that also helps us to take care of some things that we want to do, obviously, in the future with some of our other businesses and paying down debt, right? So, it's a huge chunk of change that's I'm very grateful and happy about, yeah. So.
So David, I think 5,800 minus 2,000 isn't 3,000.
Right. It's a little bit more.
That's $3,800 a month positive cash flow. So,
yeah.
So folks, when we talk about seller financing, and it's often in the agreement for sale space, we often say, listen, as a buyer getting seller financing with an agreement for sale, you want to get an agreement for sale with as long a term as you possibly can manage to give yourself a chance for the property to increase in value, either because you renovate or you get better tenants, or because equity appreciation sets in. And I know our Andrea Workington, who's done a ton of agreements for sale, her basic timeline is she wants an AFS for no less than 4 years. No less than 4 years. So in this case, David got it for 1 year, and maybe the seller will renew for another year, but he's able to take 1 year because, as you can tell by listening to the numbers and the values, it's a totally different story going off to a lender in 1 year and saying, okay, I bought this property, I'd like to refinance it. It's $3,800 positive cash flow per month, and the value is somewhere between $700,000 and $750,000. Any lender will look at that, and David shouldn't have really any trouble refinancing, getting enough money to pay out the lender. So just figure if it was $700,000 times 80%, that's $560,000. So if it's $750,000, you'll be up around $600,000. You might be able to put $100,000 or close to $100,000 in your pocket on the refinance and put that into a new acquisition. So So
Yes.
that is something that's markedly different about this deal, is that David is able to live with a much shorter seller financing term than what we usually coach and teach, just because there is so much instant equity and so much positive cash flow. So that's something that's quite different in this deal than in what we regularly see. But all it does is illustrate that, to me, it illustrates that there are deals out there that if you look and if you talk and if you accomplish some diligence and if you work hard, then you come across these undiscovered gems, and you poke a little harder and you scratch a little here, and you poke and you ask questions, and you come up with what David came up with. And I'm not going to repeat it because you've heard him say. So that is, that is quite different. And then the second thing that David has alluded to, and I know you guys have talked about, is that this was a realtor listed property. And if there's one thing that everybody knows in creative real estate, is you can't find any good deals if you're working with a realtor. If it's listed, it must be listed at pretty close to what it's worth, and there's probably no edge for you in there as a buyer. So why even bother to look at MLS properties? Because there's nothing to be had and nothing to be found, and it's a waste of time. So there's David turning another sacred cow concept on its ear, and really finding an MLS property agreed. It doesn't happen that often, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So there's two things that I see in here that are really important for anybody who's doing creative real estate to listen to.
Yeah, no, I thank you, Barry. And that's, yeah, it just kind of, like you mentioned, it proves the point that, I mean, you don't stop looking. I mean, if there's a property that interests you, whether it's on MLS or it's for sale by owner, I mean, look into it, dive into it, see what kind of information you can get. I mean, do some tireless research, right? Because those deals are out there. I drove past a for sale by owner sign today, this morning, that I'm going to go, after we're done this meeting, I'm going to go drive by and check out the property and see what if there's a deal to be made there.
Give them a call.
Yeah. So it never hurts, right? Yeah. So moving forward on this one, I mean, it's a great deal, and it really allows myself and my wife to kind of, in a sense, pull back a little bit and focus on managing this property and making it work well for us, because there's quite a substantial amount of equity to be pulled out here in the next year. So moving forward next year, this is going to be a phenomenal opportunity for me and my wife to get into something larger, which we do have plans for, and get into, maybe using that money into a larger multifamily unit, apartment complex, or, several smaller properties. So, I mean, it's kind of opens a lot of doors for us. And then during the course of this 1 year time, with the cash flow, I mean, that's pretty significant, and it allows us to pay down some debt. So that way, next year, we are looking, primed and polished, and have everything, in our favor. So it's really worked out well.
I'm curious. I'm curious because I'm wondering, you took the Rapid Cash when did you buy the Rapid Cash home study kit?
Well, I bought the Rapid Cash. It was I think it was actually this year. I actually purchased it from Donna and Barry. But prior to that, I mean, kind of working with Barry on a couple different things, and always picking at him for information, and kind of somewhat utilizing him as my mentor in a way, without him knowing about it, I guess. But he knew. So yeah,
hold on here,
so
hold on here, folks. David and I did consultations. He came to see me. He'd done a lot of work on his own. We had some conversations. He'd done a lot of work on his own. And he came in and sat down in our boardroom, and we went over what he had learned. I think we started out with assignments.
Yes.
And so David knew a lot about assignments because he'd done a whole bunch of work on it. But then we sat and we polished up some of the nuances of doing wholesaling or assignments. And
Yes.
so that, that initial interest in assignments and our consultations that we did kind of, I think, led David to say, okay, well, let's look at some of these other strategies.
Mhm.
And that led into buying the Rapid Cash Home Study Kit, which these days, folks, you can't get us live, but you can get that home study kit, which David, did you think that was useful? I mean, you paid a little money for it. What do you think?
I utilize it often. I mean, I kind of backtrack and I use it as different reference material. I've used it even to learn, sort of some of the tricks on how to put ads out to acquire renters. Because there's some good information on that and how to structure your rental ads, how to structure agreement for sales. Yeah, I mean, yes, I definitely do it, and it has some great value for sure.
Right.
And I like to read my material and stuff too. So what I've printed off sections of it because I kind of like to have paper in my hand when I read. So I printed off sections that at that certain time I need to utilize, and then I read it and read it and read it, and then I try to put it in practice. So it definitely has value, for sure.
I'm curious. How many signs did you call? How many sellers did you reach out to before you got that first agreement for sale on that townhouse?
Lots, because I was originally looking for sale by owner signs in order to put properties under contract to do options and assignments. So my time was spent driving throughout the city in all kinds of neighborhoods and focusing on looking for those signs. When I found a sign, I would call. So initially, like I say, my focus was to do options. So I would negotiate with the seller and put a property under contract, and then I would try to utilize the people that I knew in my networking community, going to the Edmonton real estate meetings and presenting the offers that I had. My knowledge, I mean, you need to acquire the properties for quite a bit less in order to do a flip on them. So at first I didn't realize that. And then, I learned a lot from doing that. So, I mean, 15, 20 or more, 30 properties I would call during a course of many months, right? And then with meeting with Barry and kind of getting involved in the Rapid Cash program, learning about the agreement for sale. Well, why am I assigning these properties when it's not as easy as it seems, right? Because you need to sell to an investor, and the investors are savvy. They know what they're looking for. They know their numbers a lot better than I did. And the properties just weren't the numbers that I would acquire the property for, say $20,000 or $30,000 under their asking price, just wasn't working for the investor in order to purchase that property and then flip it for a profit. So I learned a lot on that. Rapid Cash program. Okay, well, why am I looking for these properties to flip to somebody else when I could potentially do an agreement for sale or negotiate to purchase it for me or for myself and to add that to my portfolio? So that kind of changed my focus. But still, once again, out driving the throughout the city, different neighborhoods that I knew kind of had renter demographics, utilizing Kijiji and Facebook marketing. That's how I found my first agreement for sale property was through Facebook marketing, which was a townhouse in Stony Plain. Through that, the Facebook marketing, I noticed her ad said, "I need somebody to assume my mortgage." Well, in learning from the Rapid Cash program, I know that in Alberta, you can't assume a mortgage without actually qualifying for it first. So I phoned her and inquired with her and met her on a couple different occasions, created, like a win-win. She needed to get out of her property. I wanted to buy the property. It was my first agreement for sale. I was determined to do it, right? And I ended up negotiating a pretty good deal, a 6-year term with her. I offered her a little bit of kitty at the end of the deal, right? Once if we do sell it. Actually, how I structured it, because she had an existing 1-year mortgage, because she had to renew. So she only wanted to renew for a year because she intended to sell it. She couldn't really afford to sell it because there's no equity, and it would have cost her quite a bit of money. So that was kind of how I explained that to her. But anyway, so she had a 1-year mortgage. We negotiated. I came up with a term. I said, renew it for 1 more year. If during that 1-year period, we sell it, assign it, or have an end buyer that's in place, then I'll collect all the profits from that. If you're willing to extend the term for me for an additional 5 years, then at the end of the 5-year term, or whenever we assign it, sell it, have an end buyer for it, I'll give you a percentage of the net profits after the sale. So she kind of liked that, which also helped her to get out of the property and not have to worry about it. Yes.
Thank you. So I want to go back to this. So you didn't have a lot of experience when you started getting into your creative strategies. So how did you make those calls? How did you position yourself as?
That's a very good question. I positioned myself in a way that, endless research, just online learning and trying to educate myself in how I can go about acquiring a property or properties, creatively. Just research. I read about it tirelessly, and different things like that. I've always, through the other real estate group that I was involved in, they talked about, they don't give much information at all about wholesaling or assignments, but there's a very small little paragraph at the bottom of the page that says another way an investor or person can get into doing real estate is by wholesaling and assignments. So that kind of sparked my interest. Well, what is this? Because everybody's so in tune, potentially, or so in tune to doing things the conventional way of just, you need the 20% down in order to get a conventional mortgage, and then you can now be a real estate investor. Well, how do these other people do this? How are these guys doing this to acquire 20 properties in 1 year, right? And things like this, and making money, by wholesaling and flipping properties via an assignment. So what is this, right? So I just started researching that, and then tried to apply that in the real world, which wasn't always successful, but it's trial by error. And then was able to do one successful assignment deal. And then I kind of utilized that bit of money that I had tucked away to do this agreement for sale on this townhouse, which I got virtually for zero money down. I paid her first month's rent and paid her lawyer fees and my own lawyer fees, which were the closing costs. And I put some money into doing a quick renovation in it with paint. So I had a professional painter come in and paint the entire townhouse. So all in, it cost me about $5,000.
I'm just gonna mute you because I consistently get echo whenever I talk. So, David, when I finish my question, I'll unmute you, and then when anyone else is talking, just click mute. That way we don't get that echo effect. Ilana was actually just asking about the deposit, so that answers her question. There are a couple questions here I think we should kind of get into before we kind of wrap things up. The first one was actually for Donna. She had asked, would I be able to get more info on this Rapid Cash book? Please and thank you.
Absolutely. The Rapid Cash program is, you can find it in our on our website, McGuire.ca/shop. You can check it out there and then reach out to me if you have any questions about it. It's quite incredible, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There was another question from earlier. It was, sorry, I missed the intro and just stepped away for a moment. I think the person was curious about the financing, and they probably missed the portion about VTB, but then, so it was a vendor take back mortgage, and then they're asking, once you go to refinance it, is it going to be considered a commercial mortgage or a residential mortgage?
Well, it is classified as a commercial property. So you could, when I go to refinance it, I can do it via commercial mortgage.
So that makes it, yet again, every time we poke at this, it just gets better. So when David goes to get a commercial mortgage, you know how commercial mortgages go, folks. They don't go, okay, David, you're going to have to qualify, and what's your income, and what about this, and what about that? They're going to go, how does this property perform, David?
Yes.
Oh, $3,800 positive cash flow, $5,800 revenue, $2,000 expenses, and $3,800 worth of positive cash flow per month. They're gonna like duct tape you to the chair and not let you get out of there until you sign a commercial mortgage commitment with them. That's what's going to happen.
Yes. So that definitely adds another positive to this whole property. Yes, because it is a commercial property. So, and as Barry said, they base the property on the performance of the property, generally not on yourself personally. And then it's also purchased under a corporation, and it's an operating business as well. So it has all of these elements going for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. I mean, I think we're at the end of what we wanted to get from shining this giant 10,000 watt investor spotlight on David Coughlin.
How did Barry just take over? Didn't we talk about that? That he wasn't. We get to choose.
Yeah, Barry said he doesn't like to talk.
Oh, hey, I don't want to step on any toes here. Yeah. Especially your, really. Okay, I'm out of it.
Beautiful toes. Say it, Barry. Say it.
Oh, jeez.
It's their anniversary this week.
Yeah.
Or extra.
Have we been married longer than you've been alive, Wayne?
No.
Not quite. Not quite.
Jeez. It's bizarre, isn't it? Anyway, so yes, thank you so much, David. This was a big one. So many points on this. I want you, as you're watching it, a couple of aha moments, people. Write them down, okay? So share what you got out of this, because there's a lot. Okay. Wayne, any closing comments?
I'm just trying to be extra quiet because I'm echoing through his speaker, but no, I'm absolutely blown away. And like you said, there's so many aha moments in here, and I think a lot of past students and interested students, there's a lot to learn here, and there's it should inspire you. I think it really should inspire you, because there's a lot of people that try it, and they're like, it's too hard. There's no deals out there. You got to put the work in, and David did. And I mean, goddamn, you got 2 deals in the first year. I mean, this VTB, he made minimum $200,000 right off of right off the front with only $15,000 down, and he cash flows $3,800 a month. I mean, I think he paid for the course. I think it just covered the cost of the course.
There's that, right? David, any last advice for these audience here?
I mean, yeah, just my advice is, I mean, yeah, keep the creative mindset open. Education and knowledge is key. I'm just kind of new at this. I love it. I want to keep going. There's opportunities out there. You just have to keep your eyes and ears open and continue on. I mean, the Rapid Cash program and learning from Wayne and everybody else that's in this group is second to none. Right? Yeah, it's just
excellent.
Yeah. And I want to thank everybody for viewing, and I want to thank Donna and Barry and Wayne for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to present this and to put me under the spotlight. I was a little nervous, but I mean, yeah, I'm good to go now. I could talk for another hour.
So,
we may hold you to that. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, yeah, very good opportunity. I consider this as an opportunity as well, to have this investor spotlight on me, and yeah, very pleased to be here.
Wonderful. Okay, that's it. That's Investor Spotlight Monday. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Very much appreciate it. Thank you.